Hello, Carl W. Design, and today I'd like to have a go at creating this kinetic typography. We can make this in Blender. It's a little bit of a hack, sort of thrown together a few techniques. Um, I think you can honestly come up with something that looks really professional, looks like it was made in After Effects, and obviously Blender is free. So let's get started. I am going to delete the default cube. Let's add in some text. And RX90, I like to work from the front view, so that will rotate it up. And now we can, let's just put the paragraph alignment to center. So it's like that in the middle. And we need to choose a font. So we go under font regular, go to the folder. I'm going to go to my fonts directory, where I've got some freeware fonts saved. Let's do like this one, sure, why not? Okay, and you know what? I don't like it. Let's do this one. Okay, so what we need to do is a couple of things. One, we can talk about animation. Two, we can talk about the sort of gradient effect. And three, let's start with number three. We'll do the shadow. Okay. So I'm going to Shift D and move this down a tiny little bit and to the right, just like that. Okay, so this new duplicate, we will G, Y, and move it back a little so it's behind the other. Okay, let's put a black material on. Okay, so I've got a black material saved in my Blender startup file, but if you do not, then it's simple. We just need, honestly, we don't need any of this. We just need an emission shader, and even starting from scratch, it's Shift A, shader, emission. Okay, and you can just drag that into surface, change it to black or very dark gray for the shadow. Okay, so if we have a look in rendered view in Eevee, then as soon as my computer wants to, okay, we just need to change the world background to something more reasonable, and let's do something interesting. Okay, just like that, and we have a little bit of shadow under our text. Okay, so what we need to do, the problem with that is going to be if we move the text, the shadow doesn't come with it. So if we select the shadow and then select the text, I will Control P and set parent to object, keep transform, and now if we move the text, the shadow comes with. Let's keep our scene clean, so I'm going to label this text 000 and this one shadow 000. I'm going to put them both under the main collection. If you don't have a main collection, or you'd like to just create your own arbitrary name, it's right click and new collection, and then you can, call it text collection or whatever you'd like. Okay, so let's just get rid of those two for now. And so I've just got one collection, a shadow and a text. Okay, good. So if I shift right click sort of down the bottom of the T, or to the bottom left of your text, that's going to move the 3D cursor. We can't see it because overlays were off. Okay, but so just shift right click and it moves that 3D cursor. So if we shift A and make a new empty, it will put it where the 3D cursor is. Okay, so now we have an empty right there, and I'm just going to call it empty.000, and now we need to parent this text to the empty. So select the text first, empty second, Control P, and keep transform. Okay, so that will allow us to rotate, move, or scale the empty, and everything comes with. Okay, so we are getting there. We just need to put this gradient on this text. So let's go into our object and create a new material. I'm going to delete this principled BSDF, and so that's X to delete. We'll just create an emission shader, and I'm going to plug that in. So whatever color we have there, we will have there, because remember, we're using default view transform under color management with base contrast, and so I always recommend you use Filmic if you're doing 3D graphics, but we'll stick with these settings for my sort of 2D graphics paradigm today. Okay, so what do we need to make that gradient? We need a color ramp, so that's Shift A and you can search for color ramp. We're going to plug that in, and then we're going to Shift A and search for gradient texture. I'm going to plug that in just like that. And then I'm going to, with this gradient texture selected, I'm going to Control T, and that automatically adds a mapping and texture coordinates. So we're going to use generated, we're going to use texture on the mapping, and then I'm going to turn this around 90 on the Z, and you can see what that's done. It's sort of put the black node here on the color ramp at the bottom and the white at the top, and we can mess around with this X scale and that will affect our gradient. Okay, so maybe we want sort of like a dark green or something, I'm not sure. Maybe dark green like that to white, is that good? I don't know. It looks okay to me. Okay, so just for the sake of this tutorial, I just want to keep moving. So let's grab this empty and we can move this thing around. So how do we do some animation now? Well, let's scale this one up. Let's just change it. If you select the text and push tab, you're allowed to backspace and put whatever you want. So we'll put hello. We need to also do that on the shadow. So left click, select it, tab, hello. Okay, and on frame number 1 down here, let's just move it off. Whoops, we need to select out empty. Move it off the screen and insert location, rotation, scale. And then after, I think about 10 frames is a good amount for a very quick animation. We will GX and move that back in. I for insert keyframe, location, rotation, scale. And now if we just play, we have that. Now I have my blender set to, where is it? It should be under animation, F curves, set to linear as default interpolation. Okay, so if we go to the animation, you can see in the graph editor, that's just a linear animation. You could select these, and by default Blender will give you Bezier like this. So there's a small, well, let's just go to camera here and we'll just play. So there's a small easing in and out. Maybe that's what you're after, or maybe there are some fun ones like back is a nice sort of cartoony one. So you can see how that works. It sort of flies in, goes a little bit past where you want it to end up, and then it goes back again. And of course there's things like bounce. This might be a bit harsh. I mean, maybe that's what you're after. That looks kind of cool. Okay, and so let's just go back to shading and see what we have. Okay, we've got that. And so lastly, let's talk about creating more of these. So if I B and draw a little box over them, right click, select them all, I can Shift D and drag. Let's just drag down on the Z. Now those are going to have all the keyframes, so that's going to end up just in place where the other one was. But we can just delete the keyframes and then we should be able to move it around wherever we want. Okay, let's just go back in here and delete all the keyframes. A to select all, X delete. Okay, and we should be able to move this now. Yeah, very good. Okay, so we could scale this down. We can, of course, go in and change the words, change the text. You can come up with your own designs, do anything you want. There is rotation to think about, so you could have this guy like over here and rotate it up. If I hold control, I can rotate perfect 90. We'll put him like there. And then maybe at, I don't know, frame 16 or something, we will insert location, rotation, scale. And then at like, I don't know, 24 maybe, we can have it come flying in and rotate back around and insert another keyframe. Okay, so that can come flying in like that. And of course we can use like bounce, I don't know. That's a little bit harsh, let's do back. Okay, that looks alright. It's T to change the keyframe interpolation. Okay, so that's really what I wanted to show. There's so much you can do with this. Another potential is to select, or if I shift right click maybe here, and then make a new empty, what you can do is this one. Why is it called empty without a number? That's interesting. I'm just going to change that to 002. If we select this one, and then the new one, we can Control P and parent the other ones to that, and then on the new one we can scale and move and do all that stuff. So you can then have all the text kind of, let's insert a keyframe, and then after a short while we'll scale that all down and move it off to the side, and then maybe we would like to move this one up here, and so I'll just give that a keyframe, and we will give this new one a keyframe, and then let's have a look at what we have. So okay, we might just make this animation a little bit longer, and let's have a look. Okay, so that one comes in, that one rotates in, and then they both move down off the side. This is obviously very rough. You need to think about your own ideas and come up with something more creative than this, but this is the process, and you can make really cool stuff. There's limitless possibilities. Really, I think you want to render with cycles and make sure you're using motion blur. I find something like 0.2 just for a little bit of motion blur is a nice look. And you could think about much nicer colors. You can do things like animating the camera. So maybe when this animation of the text finishes, we might insert a keyframe on the camera, and then maybe 10 frames later we can move the camera down and insert a keyframe. Okay, and so that's just going to have it slide all the text off the top effectively. And so you could continuously be bringing in new text and then moving the camera. You could have the camera rotate on the Z, so the text kind of rotates off in a circle. There's just so many possibilities. As always, I'd like to see any sort of cool results you guys can come up with. Post me a link if you follow the tutorial and make something awesome. And I think we're just about done here. Thank you very much, guys. Until next time, bye-bye.